out of recess, and we will not continue our closed session after this ledge meeting. We were capably advised by our staff. Thank you for your patience. It is 5:30. We are at public testimony. Rules for public testimony are on the screen, and I ask that speakers are respectful of these rules. The board does not take public comments on items related to personnel or individually named staff. I'm assuming that the folks in this room can read and see those rules, so I will dispense with reading them each and every word. I would like to remind you that you have 2-minute speaking time. When you have 30 seconds left, the yellow light will show up. Please start to conclude your remarks. Thank you very much. Please read the speakers three at a time. Thank you.
First up, we have Alex Zimmerman, followed by Chris Jackins, and then Sabrina Burr.
Microphone not working, so you will start from beginning. You will come again? Can I speak again? No? Okay. Sieg Heil, my dirty Nazi pig. Commie Nazi pig with animal farm. I Gestapo, anti-Semite, and killer. My name Alex Zimmerman. I want to speak about something what has happened before, and this is an agenda right now about board meeting. Yeah, you cut me many times right now too. So situation right now very simple. You cannot change me. I'm too old and too stupid. But you did this for 30 years with 2 generations of Seattle children, brainwash them totally. They don't know what this means. U.S. Constitution, freedom of speech, open public act, or 100 decision of city of U.S. court, local, and U.S. Supreme Court. This is a problem what is we have right now. This everything what is Seattle right now start be a #1 fascist city in America with one-party system.
Excuse me, you said you were going to be speaking to consent agenda item number 1, which are the minutes of the meetings. Please direct
Yes,
your
exactly
comments
what is I
to
doing
that
this.
issue,
I
the
did this.
majority of
You
same.
see, you interrupt me again. You acting like a Nazi pig. It's a problem. It's a problem. I don't have my 2 minutes. Exactly what is in agenda number, it's a board meeting from 10th of July. And this is exactly what's happened. You don't give me chance to speak. It's a problem. You cut my 40-minute second right now. Half. What is you talking about? That's exactly what is I told you. You're real Nazi Gestapo pig. Is it you're doing in every meeting. You don't give me chance to speak my 2 minutes like supposed to be. By law, it rules. You pretend you're American? No, you're a real Nazi pig. That's exactly what's happening here.
My name is Chris Jackins, Box 84063, Seattle 98124. On the bread contract, 3 points. Number 1, a letter from the baking company notes that it has 2 bakeries in Seattle, one less than a half mile from school district headquarters. Number 2, 12 out of 13 of the company's bread products contain calcium propionate, a mold inhibitor. Number 3, why are preservatives needed? The bread is only being baked a few blocks away. Please vote no on this contract. Drop the chemicals. Give students fresh bread instead. On the school name change from Van Asselt at African American Academy to Rising Star at African American Academy. 5 points. Number 1, the name change is intended to reduce confusion between the original Van Asselt and the current site. Number 2, reopening the African American Academy is a better solution. Number 3, the district found one relative of Henry Van Asselt, an early settler associated with the land on which the school was built. The relative was said to have given her assent to the name change. Number 4, I sat through the district's previous renaming of Sharpless School to Augie Croce. District staff at that time found one listing of a Sharpless in the phone book, but that person was not related to the original Sharpless. After the Sharpless renaming, the Sharpless family surfaced in force and threatened legal action. Number 5, so over the span of a couple of decades, the district has gone from finding 0 relatives to finding 1 relative. The district has not yet done proper due diligence. Please vote no. Thank you.
After Sabrina Burr, we will have Vivian Grease, followed by Jonah Randolph and Brian Terry. Vivian?
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. I think once a... Nope. Okay, thank you. Okay. Good evening, board members. My name is Vivian A. Grice. I'm a special education instructional assistant. Focus, grades 3 through 5. Thank you for granting me the opportunity to speak in regards to the school name change at Van Assel Elementary at African American Academy. It has been an arduous journey, renaming our school with highs and lows. However, the joint efforts of our dedicated community, family, students, and staff, and their vision, including past, present, and future endeavor and goals, are woven into a vast think tank to help solidify our proposed name change, Rising Star Elementary at African American Academy. We are looking forward to starting the 2019-2020 school year with enthusiasm and hope, cheering on our Rising Star students as they enter their new school setting. We will begin with a new vision emboldened by the dreams, hopes, and aspirations inspired by our wonderful family, community members, staff, students, great leaders, and visionaries. We have risen from the ashes as Rising Star Firebirds, facing challenges and moving upward and beyond as we brighten the future of our beloved children, families, staff, and community. Thank you.
Jonah?
Hello, board. My name is Jonah Randolph. I'm a first grade teacher at Van Assel, and I've been teaching there for 5 years. I grew up 2 blocks away from Van Assel. That's where I was born and raised. When I was just a boy, Van Assel was just a field, and we caught garter snakes in that field. So for me, teaching has been about coming home, and it's a full circle, and I feel like I'm not only a teacher, but also a resident of the community. And I'm just here to speak for our attempt to claim a name for ourselves. In many ways, this journey of choosing a name has had us go back through history. We went back so far in our history, we went back to the Duwamish, and we realized that there are so many similarities as we went up. So the treatment of the Duwamish and Henry Van Asselt and what he stood for and how different he was than many other settlers. The way that Van Asselt turned into the story of the African American Academy, after that. All these things fit together, and all of them fit together with a certain level of disregard. People who've been disregarded, people who've been moved, people who've been had their name given to them or had situations decided for them. So in this act of naming ourselves, I want you all to know that we are trying in the most genuine way we can, with the input of our staff, our families, our kids, and our community, to name ourselves. To not only do away with confusion, but also to claim our own right to be who we are. A really, really brief piece of history. And I wish I could tell you all the history that we went over to go through this. We actually have the whole family tree of the Van Asselts. So our Van Asselt that we contacted, I believe her name is Maureen or Marva, she is not the wrong Van Asselt. She is directly related to Henry Van Asselt, and she gave us our permission. So really brief history, the African American Academy was forced to close, essentially, in, I believe, 2009. And Van Asselt School was very happy where they were, and they were told they were not going to move. And so African American Academy was closed, and Van Asselt School was forced to move into that building. And now we want to go ahead and claim a name that belongs to us that wasn't given or wasn't taken or wasn't misconstrued. Thank you.
After Brian Terry, we will have Sabrina Burr.
Good evening. IQ tests have a dark past. Significant racial biases made them a tool for white supremacy. We use an IQ test in our schools today to identify highly capable students. For years now, we have identified white students as highly capable at a rate 20 times that of black students. If we looked, we would see that the IQ test that we use has a 10-to-1 racial bias against black students. But we don't look. We have faced this gross inequity for more than 30 years, and each year chosen to do nothing of consequence to address it, in violation of both WAC 392170035 and District Policy 0030. It seems surprisingly easy for us to overlook the harm this program causes to our black students, as though their lives don't matter. I ask all of you to please consider what it is about our decision-making process that makes it so easy for us to neglect the interests of our black students, what your role is in this process, and what action each of you can take to change our process so that our decisions reflect the interests of all of our students equitably. Thank you.
Good evening. First of all, I want to thank you for what you do. I know your job is not easy. I want to talk about the District 7 race. It was supposed to be open and transparent, but it is the most racist thing that I'm seeing. We have bloggers, and they're streaming white supremacy. I've seen candidates being lynched in their character, and I'm very disappointed. We have candidates that I understand have relationships with HCC staff, and this process is not transparent. The reason why I did not put my name in the hat was because Elijah's name was in the hat, and both of us did not need to have our name in the hat because she was fully qualified for doing the job. And so I really want you to look at what is going on in the race. There is a lot of white supremacy around this race, and Seattle Public School staff is ingrained in it. So I just want to be open and very clear about what that looks like. There's extreme white supremacy around this, and we need to correct it. District 7 needs a black voice. Even under Director Patu, the black voice in South Seattle has not been heard. You have not heard from our families, and there's no trust. And so if you want to serve the black people in Southeast Seattle, you need to make sure we have somebody who has a relationship with them. On the African American Academy, I understand what that community has gone through for the school, but in Southeast, I had no idea of what was going on, nor has the community been engaged. The community was engaged when it was called the African American Academy. And I don't know why we have to put something up in front of it. The community went through a lot. The African American Academy, it was racist, and they all ended up in South Shore in 2009, changing the dynamics of our school, because then we became a free and reduced lunch school where we weren't before. And I really want you to look at the African American community and see how you're impacting them and how not honoring the name that the community picked, what it does. There's a lot of hurt in our community, and you need to investigate that before you vote on it, and just listen to what happened in a school community who did not reach out to our community.
This concludes the sign-up list for public testimony this evening.
Do we have anyone in the audience that wishes to testify? Is, I believe, the appropriate ask at this time. Going once? Going twice? Going 3 times? Okay, action items. We move back to the consent, board comments. Got myself this time. Who would like to go first? Director Burke, please.
So we're coming off of summer, and in the interest of that, I'll keep comments short. I want to share my gratitude with the SPS team. As I mentioned, the transition from summer back to the school year, the educators get to take a much needed break, but there's lots of things that run full speed all summer long. The capital projects team has been going super intensely to get our 4 schools started that Director Mack had mentioned. We've got 4 ribbon cuttings, 2 of them tomorrow at Magnolia and Ingram, and 2 of them on next week on, I believe, Tuesday at Queen Anne Elementary and Lincoln High School, our brand new Lincoln High School. Super excited about that. So I just want to thank the teams that have been working on that tirelessly, and the start of school folks that are going to make our transition to getting kids' butts in seats, as we like to say, super successful. I also want to share my gratitude with the bargaining teams, Seattle Education Association and Seattle Public Schools. There's another group of people that worked their tushes off this summer to have a clean start of school. I'm super excited about what that has come to, and how the interest-based bargaining process helps us through some of the challenging times, some of the challenging topics, but gets us to a better place together. A special shout out, I know that there's so many people that pass into the organization, through the organization. I wanted to give a special shout out to Michelle Aoki. I'm not very good with titles, so I'm not even sure exactly what her title is, but essentially Director of International Language Studies, Schools, something or other. What she taught me about commitment to a program and around language immersion schools and essentially our whole international studies work took me basically from zero to functional. And so I'm really grateful for the passion that she has shown. She's retiring officially September 1st. So I wanted to publicly thank her. I've scheduled 3 community meetings that I'm still waiting for confirmation. These are essentially the 3 community meetings that will complete my term here. September 14th, Saturday, 3 to 5 p.m., Fremont Library. October 12th, 10 a.m. to noon at Greenwood Library. And November 9th, 3 to 5 p.m., also at Greenwood Library. Once I have confirmations, I'll share that with the board office and we'll get it posted on the calendar. Other than that, thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and looking forward to a wonderful start of school.
Director Pinkham and then Director Mack.
Tascalawit, good evening, and Katsialia, thank you. Uh, I guess for our next Tuesday and Wednesday, welcome back to school. I do have a new high school student that'll be having to attend some orientation with her next year, but to all students, new and returning, and those that are moving on, like from elementary to middle school and middle school to high school, welcome back, and hope you'll find this year very fulfilling. And as I mentioned, we got some new schools opening up. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it to Ingram High School. I got some UW commitments that's keeping me busy just by basically from 8 to sometimes even after the 5 p.m. end workday. And thank you to all the candidates that were looking for the District 7 position and providing input and your views and perspectives as you're moving forward with that. Thank you to our staff and the SCA people that we were able to find, come to this, with just the work that you've done. I appreciate it that we're at the point that we're at now. Yeah, I barely have much comments for people today, so I guess I'll take this opportunity to wish my niece and her husband a happy anniversary. And also for tomorrow, my sister's birthday as well, so I got to pass those congratulations out. I don't have any community meetings scheduled right now because unfortunately we're also heading into Husky football season, and some of those games are to be determined. So I diligently work around those calendars. So, but once I get them scheduled, you will see them announced. Katsiaga, thank you.
Good evening. I appreciate the thank yous that are thrown out and also the birthday wishes. I'm actually not a good person to remember other people's birthdays, so happy birthday to everybody. But I will do a shout out to my husband, whose birthday was yesterday, and my twins a couple days before. So I'm excited about the new buildings that Director Burke mentioned and the ribbon cuttings that we get to do. Successes in Seattle Public Schools. We've got such a large district, so many people, so many challenges. I really love the wins when they come, and these are some major wins. I know that potentially Rising Star at African American, or the Van Assault at African American, is struggling with some facilities issues, a roofing issue right now, and I'm sure there's some other issues going on across the district, and I know our staff is working hard to try to resolve those. And that every student in our district needs and deserves a quality, safe learning environment. So excited about the ribbon cuttings tomorrow, and excited about school starting next week, having a short break before it starts. So many logistics to go on for the start of school. 54,000 students. I'm hearing that there's some enrollment projections that are maybe above, but we don't know until people show up. So people are still signing up out there, getting all of the transportation things lined up. It's a lot of details, and a lot of teachers and principals and central staff are working really hard to make sure everything is lined up. But I also know that there's often some glitches. And I know my sense is, particularly this year, that there's a commitment inside of this district to be responsive to when glitches are happening and resolve them. So I hope that's what folks are experiencing. I believe that's what the intent is. And I hope that as we move into the start of school, things get resolved quickly and with compassion. As I mentioned in the ops, we're getting some important updates at the next ops meeting, which is the day after school starts. So we'll be getting enrollment numbers and getting some information there, update on start of schools. And also in response to the testimony around advanced learning, the task force has been doing their work, and that those recommendations will be coming out. There's a lot of work around that going on. We have a work session that's scheduled in September on the 25th. And I do know that there have been changes in identification practices and so forth. No, in the past 5 years, there have been some improvements around the attempts to improve the identification processes, and I do want to push back that there hasn't been anything done, because I do know that there have been some changes made, and there's a lot of conversation about what are the right changes to make in the future. So I appreciate the support of the effort, and I also want to recognize that we are working towards making improvements, and that it is on our minds and in our agendas. I don't have any community meetings set up yet. I was remiss in the last 4 months, maybe 6 months. Things were too busy, but I do commit to getting something set up for September, October, and November, particularly when there are some really hot topics coming up with student assignment and boundaries, and those sorts of things get really heated. And so I will be having a community meeting. I'll get it scheduled, and I'll let you know when it is. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you. I hope short and sweet, like sometimes I am. I wanted to point this out. Seattle Magazine and our very own head of food services. And if you've eaten his cooking and his tiramisu, it's to die for. And I'm going to teach him lasagna, and he's going to teach me oxtail soup. We've got a deal going on. I do not have community meetings planned as yet, but I will try to make them again at a West Seattle library. I try to rotate them the third Saturday of the month from 3 to 5, unless there's a conflict here. And the next one, you have a 50% chance of getting lasagna. And it's worth it for staff to come because we're rowdy and you get to see a different perspective, and you all are very much invited. A huge thanks for the lifts that our educators have done in bargaining and that our staff has done in bargaining. This is the lost summer for these people. And as well, please remember that most of our staff that has been on the bargaining team do that in addition to their 40-hour plus work week. Their families don't see them, and it's really difficult, intense work, and it is so very much appreciated. And if you haven't heard it before, from the bottom of my heart, and this is one of those places where I absolutely will speak on behalf of the board, thank you ever so much, both our staff and the Seattle Education Association. If people come to the table with listening and collaboration, good things happen, and I believe good things did happen. And you will see that on the next board agenda for intro and action. And for those folks that think that the board has some kind of megalomaniacal power that we could reach back in and change something, spare yourself the ugly emails and the blog posts, because that's just not going to happen. This is a bargain that was collaborated on, and I would expect that we will in fact be approving it as is. And thousands of hours went into this, and it's interest-based bargaining. It's not adversarial. That's the difference. And I sound really preachy, and I don't mean to. The other huge thanks is to the Capitol team and the Start of Schools team. And I don't know if folks are aware, I certainly wasn't, being out in the seats here prior to the start of school for years and years, that we have a cross-departmental team that works on start of schools issues. And they put together a giant-sized punch list. And we used to say that this building and our departments were hugely siloed. Well, I'm here to tell you, thank you, speak up, hold the mic close, that those silos are falling apart. And that's one of the best things I've ever seen in the last 4 years being here on the dais, and certainly the 15 prior to that. This is a cross-departmental team that works through this punch list. And I think I heard a rumor this morning, actually I heard a quote, that we started with over 100 items and we're down to 10 or 12. Something like that. That's pretty extraordinary when you think of 102 schools and that many folks. So thank you as well for that. And thank you as well to the Seattle PTSAs. It's not just teachers and principals that are in our schools right now getting ready for start of schools. As you know, I do look at the blogs. I do try and keep up as an early warning system. And I see new PTSA blood coming in and a really lovely, what do I want to say, almost mentorship process taking place. And that's a healthy and a beautiful thing as well. And to those parents that are nervous about sending your children to kindergarten or our schools, there's family there for you. You need to reach out and embrace it. And I think PTSA, like the school district, is trying to do a better job of being inclusive and more engaging. And again, those are great things. I do appreciate and have heard loud and clear frustration with the District 7 process, District 7 appointment process. I would say that this is the most transparent process that I've ever seen in living in this state for more than a few decades to fill vacancies. Is it messy? It is. Democracy's messy. But the meetings have been transparent. They've been open. We had an abundance of extraordinary people coming to apply for this vacancies, and I'm so thrilled and proud for that, and I hope that we can figure out other ways to corral that talent. And it does come down to a trust exercise. It's the duty of the board under statute that we are the ones that vote and appoint, and I know that this board director takes it very seriously, and I trust that each of my colleagues does as well. So stay tuned and hang with us, and please be there for the forum at Rainier Beach High School on September 11. Much appreciate. Action items. Let's go to the consent number 1. And Director Pinkham, I believe you found an error, as you do. And these are the minutes that
yeah,
you're
there
moving
was the
forward
July
for approval.
10th official minutes, because we did do something a little bit different that day, that we invited some people to share public testimony before we recess. But after, in this one, it says after board comments, let's see where it says, it's on page 4. It says the meeting recessed at 4:42 p.m. This meeting reconvened at 4:42 p.m. Did we actually do that? Was we? That's what I was thinking. Did we actually? Wait, let's recess and then no. Well, let's get back together and do this. So 4:42 or 4:43 doesn't matter if we.
We're looking for advice here, folks.
Ronald Boyd, Senior Assistant
Didn't see
General
that one
Counsel.
coming, did ya?
You know, it sounds like it actually is correct, even though it reads unusually. But I understand that you did a recess and come back in, and that is actually what occurred. I don't think there needs to be a correction.
Is there a way you can make that clearer? I guess because it does seem kind of if someone is to read this, how'd they recess and reconvene at the same time?
I think that you could add some language that there's board directors changed their mind and reconvened. Be the most accurate, right way to say it.
Would that be considered a Scrivener's edition, sir?
Yes, it just provides a little bit more clarity. It doesn't actually change the actual
And
content.
do we need a formal motion for same?
No, I think that we could just correct it.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve consent agenda item number 1?
I move approval of the minutes of the July 10th, 2019 budget public hearing, the July 10th, 2019 regular board meeting, the July 15th, 2019 work session, the August 5th, 2019 work session, the August 7th, 2019 board special meeting, and the August 12th, 2019 work session.
I second the motion.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now we move to C, action item number 1, approving board policy number 3232, parent, guardian, and student rights and administration of surveys, analysis, or evaluations. This came before CNI June 11 for consideration. Motion, please.
I move that the school board amend board policy number 3232, parent, guardian, and student rights in administration of surveys, analysis, or evaluations as attached to the board action report.
I second the motion.
See Chief Academic Officer Diane DeBacker at the podium. Take it away, please.
Good evening, and thank you, President Harris. Am I on? All right. As you all know, Policy 3232 deals with a very important topic, and that is the privacy of our student data. Because this topic is so important, we've taken a long time to get the language right, as all of you know sitting up there tonight. Along the way, we were pushed by each of you, by our communities, by our own internal staff to get this right, because we know that the rights and the responsibilities of our district to our students were not clear prior to this. The policy that's before you today is strong and represents a collaborative process. We did outreach with our communities, formed an internal working group, and had multiple feedback sessions with the directors and the Curriculum and Instruction Committee. At the recommendation of the committee members, we also moved forward with a superintendent procedure to accompany this policy. That procedure is currently being routed through our district channels. That said, I know that our district directors are interested in knowing the content of that procedure, so I'm going to walk you through a few of the specifics. First, the procedure reaffirms the district's adherence to the Protection of Pupil Rights Amendments, or PPRA, and the guidelines from the U.S. Department of Education regarding the protection of student data privacy. The procedure also addresses the discomfort that some directors had expressed with regards to the PPRA protected category of sex behavior or attitudes. We clarified that this should be interpreted to mean sexual behavior and attitudes in relation to sexual health and behavior. Second, the procedure clarifies when studies are opt-in and when they are opt-out. And we follow this guidance from the U.S. Department of Education and the federal law. Those 8 reasons for those are outlined within the policy. Third, the procedure outlines notification requirements to families. Just this week, a back-to-school notice was sent out to family informing them of this anticipated approval of the policy. We will go back to them with the specifics once we have board approval on this. We'll require that there's hard copy paper options, and then we also will have other sources available, such as through the source or email. And we'll require that the notifications be translated into at least the 5 top languages of our district families. Finally, and I think this is one of the most important, the procedure makes it clear that district staff are responsible for upholding the requirements set forth in this policy. Will require that district staff provide a contact person to track the opt-outs, and that we follow best practice in safeguarding signed consent forms for opt-outs or opt-ins. And in any case where consent requirements are unclear, we ask that data collectors consult with district legal counsel, and we'll communicate this with our principals and our school staff. We anticipate that if you approve Policy 3232 tonight, we'll be able to share the text of the procedures with you at the September Curriculum and Instruction Committee, and that will all be shared with you directors after that. I stand for questions.
Thank you so much. Director Mack?
Since I don't sit on CNI, I don't actually get to hear some of these conversations, and it sounds like it's been very robust and completely engaged. The one thing that I have a big question on is the language in the policy that and this might also be a question for Mr. Boy, because I'm trying to understand who this actually covers. The policy says specifically that it's blah, 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 required for all third-party research. Sorry, I did the blah, 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 but anyway, it's the second paragraph down. All third-party research. That doesn't encompass when the district itself is doing surveys. And then the accompanying policy number 4280 specifically only covers third party as well. So all of the things that you just described for student data privacy, excellent, except this, what I'm a little concerned about is that, are we really only requiring those things of the third party research and not our own district? Because that's what the policy says. It very specifically says third party research, and it doesn't sound like it covers the district. So can I get some clarity? Because despite my support for all of that work that's gone into that, that's a huge thing. If we are not following the same requirements and it's only the third party people that are having to follow it, that's a problem. So if I can get clarification on that.
Chief Counsel Ronald Boy is coming to the podium.
So when we look at the policy, the paragraph number 2 states that it is the district's position that all third party receive informed consent. When we look at internal research internal research that covers one of the identified groupings here, where the reveals student information concerning any of the following 8 categories, then we fall into not an informed consent, but a direct notification of a parent's rights to opt out and review the survey. So those are the distinctions.
For clarification, we are requiring that any third-party research notify, and parents have to give consent for these 8 things. But our district staff can do that without requiring it. Because the policy doesn't require that. The policy is only requiring it for third party. It's not requiring it for our own district staff.
That is, so under the PPRA indicates that for Department of Ed funded surveys, what was that?
Yeah, what is the PPRA? I'm sorry.
Val, PPRA means what?
The Protection of People Rights Act.
Thank you.
So and this is the act that guides this policy. Under the act, when a survey is submitted to a student, and that's any time that a student is presented with questioning. So sometimes we might refer to it as something other than a survey, like a screener or a test, something like that. Anytime that a student is asked to submit to a survey covering one of the 8 sensitive topics, if it were funded by the Department of Ed, there must be active consent by a parent. And if it is not funded by the Department of Ed, we are required to do, and that would be in the case of, for us, like a internal survey, we are required to provide direct notification to parents, and that direct notification must describe what the survey is, the sensitive topics that it might cover, when it's going to be given, and inform the parents that they have the right to review that survey and the right to opt out of this survey. And we've also included in this that we require informed consent as well for any third-party surveys as well that are not, funded by the Department of Ed. So we are the only time that a the ability to not do an active consent would be an internal surveys that are not funded by the Department of Ed. And then we would do direct notification, and the parental right to opt out or review would be in place.
But for clarification, this policy doesn't require notification or informed consent for our own surveys. You're saying that there is going to be in the procedures, and that's the process in the PPRA,
No,
that there would be, because that was what we would do, but this policy doesn't clarify that we also do require notification.
it actually does. When we look below the 8 areas, so sensitive areas, it says in cases of district-led collection of student data that may concern the above 8 categories, but is not funded by the U.S. Department of Education, the district shall notify parent, guardians, and adult or more emancipated minor students of their rights for refusal and their rights for their child's participation and their child's participation in the data collection activity.
So there it is. So it does clarify. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
So for clarity, third-party research requires informed consent. When it's our own, we will be notifying them, and that's a shall, not a may. So we are required to notify parents and that they can opt out if they want to.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Director Burke.
I want to close the loop on this conversation because I think it's a really good one, and I appreciate you bringing that up. If you scroll down a little bit more in the packet, the language that we were originally looking at for this policy, which I think came through WASDA, was around applying these guidelines to federally funded surveys. And I'm looking to staff to correct me if I overstep here, but when we were talking with staff about, well, why just federally funded? And the feedback was, well, we have those practices for all of our surveys, but the policy language came with federally funded. We're like, well, let's change the policy language to all. And I think that became all third party, but then this paragraph down below indicates that it would include internal as well. So my understanding is that we have a standard policy for that this is codifying around opt-in, opt-out. And if that is true, please confirm. Or
It is true.
okay, so that was what changed the language in here from federally funded to including all outside sources.
And I really, really do appreciate that clarification and getting all the way down to the bottom of the page and reading that part, because the first thing that you read is third party only, and that gave me pause and concern. So I would just ask, I know you're working on the procedures, I would ask to the best of your ability and the procedures to be very clear about the district's responsibilities and how they are responding, particularly to this notification and opt-out and all of that. I'm sure you're already handling that in it, but it's so important to have that really clear for us knowing our processes, as well as family and students to know what their rights are. Thank you.
Director Pinkham.
I almost got a concern that this may be a little bit too broad, because that paragraph on that second page, because we collect data. We're always doing data, and that says that this almost to me sounds like we can even have people opt out of, hey, I don't want to be counted in the data, versus surveys. I want to, that paragraph to me, in cases of district-led collection of student data, it doesn't say collection of surveys from or something like this. So that concerns me, that someone may say, hey, sorry, you can't count my Native American child because I don't want that child to be counted in any data collected. Can I get that? Does it? I don't.
Mr. Boy.
I would just say that because of the fact that we are really focused on the questioning of the 8 sensitive topic areas, which precedes that language, and in that sentence prior, it talks about the data collection and then by the district for research, evaluation, or analysis. I think that we've narrowed it down appropriately with the focus towards that questioning of the sensitive areas, and then it then continues on talk about district data collection with the same context that concern the above 8 categories. And I think that that we're strong there as far as your concern.
Director Burke? Director Pinkham, does that address your concerns?
Again, just that one paragraph where it just talks about district-led collection of student data. That may concern the above 8 categories. That isn't collected anywhere in our system, like when we do student demographics and when people register their children for the school. None of this kind of data is collected of those 8 categories. So that's just what I was kind of concerned about, that, gee, if there was something that we did collect and then we want to do an analysis of that data, is this policy now saying we must get a permission from someone that may have identified as one of those in our system?
Has your concern been met and or explained, or are we at an impasse here?
Looking at, again, the 8 items, as long as I know that this data isn't collected as a process of us getting students enrolled, I'm good.
Okay, so we've got that. Director Burke, did you wish to speak further on this? I do. I appreciate that this is a long time coming. I appreciate that this took a great deal of work from legal, from board staff, from CNI, from the chair of CNI and the CNI committee, from research and evaluation, from comms. This hit a lot of different departments and streams of work. A whole lot of really fascinating arguments were had, and I don't think conflict's a bad thing as long as we learn to listen to each other and we come out with good work product like this. So, on that note, roll call, please.
Director Burke?
Aye.
Director Mack? Director Pinkham?
Aye.
Director Harris?
Aye.
This motion is passed unanimously.
Thank you so much. C, action item number 2, approval of the extension of contract with Durham School Services for supplemental bus transportation services. This came before exec August 21st for consideration. Motion, please.
I move that the school board authorize the superintendent to execute a contract amendment extending contract SS 11822 through the 2019-20 school year for school bus transportation services with Durham School Services Incorporated in the form of the amendment attached to the board action report with any minor additions, deletions, and modifications deemed necessary by the superintendent, and to take any necessary actions to implement the contract amendment. Immediate action is in the best interests of the district.
I second the motion.
Take it away, Chief Podesta, please.
Fred Podesta, Chief Operations Officer. The board will recall that in the fall of 2018, the district was having trouble with transportation, that our main yellow bus home-to-school transportation provider for a student was struggling with fully staffing its driver ranks and was missing roughly 40 routes a day due to lack of drivers. So the district reacted as quickly as we could, and in late fall entered into a supplemental contract to get additional bus service from Durham, another provider, and was able over the next period of weeks to kind of stabilize services, add routes, and improve service markedly from the fall to the winter. And we think going into, while we've made other tactical changes and expect the driver picture to be better this fall than it was last fall. Still think the prudent thing to do is to not be kind of over a barrel with one vendor, and to be able to draw from a broader pool of buses and drivers, and amend this contract to extend it another year.
Comments, questions, concerns from my colleagues? I triple dog dare you. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Director Mack?
Aye.
Director Pinkham?
Aye.
Director Burke?
Aye.
Director Harris?
Aye.
This motion is passed unanimously.
Action item number 3, approval of bread bid RFT 02965. This came before Ops August 15th, 4. Motion, please.
I move that the school board authorize the superintendent to enter into an agreement with the Friends Family Bakeries covering the period from September 1, 2019 to August 31, 2020 at a cost of up to $253,288.42 for bread products, with any minor additions, deletions, and modifications deemed necessary by the superintendent, and to take any necessary actions to implement the contract. Approval of this motion would authorize a 1-year contract with annual renewal option for 2 additional years at a similar price. Immediate action is in the best interest of the district.
I second the motion.
Chief Podesta, take it away.
This is the third basic food contract that we're bringing to the board this year, the first being for fruits and vegetables and dairy products. This provides the bread products that we use for breakfast and lunch service. A request for proposal process was conducted in the spring. We had 2 vendors. This contract is a few $1,000s more on an annual basis projected, but the spectrum of products that they offer and the service in terms of delivery seems much better, and so the evaluation panel chose this provider, Fran's Bakery, also a local provider that many of us are familiar with. One question came at the operations committee about do we have any information about how the bakeries handle nut products and nut allergies? The facilities that will be serving us are all nut-free, so that will be one less thing to worry about. We would like.
Chief Podesta, could you also address the concern, or have your colleague address the concern regarding preservatives that came up at public testimony?
We do, not all these products are custom made for us, so people have different shelf needs, and we have an enormous warehouse and kitchen. So while it is true that we get products delivered to us relatively quickly, we do have storage issues and are working hard, which is why, and I appreciate you highlighting our nutrition services director's media attention, but we're trying hard to get fresher food in front of students, but we will store these products, and so having stabilizing elements I think is still important to us. I don't know, Aaron, if Aaron has anything he'd like to add, but I think we're still in that market where there will be some preservatives in our bread products.
And can we do away with them in 10 years and make scratch bread? It's good to have an aspirational goal. Yeah. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Director Burke.
I want to also echo an enthusiasm for baked products, but the love for scratch baking or having that equipment and capability at our schools. I think back to my high school days where the rolls were 15 cents and the milk was 20, and I made it through my entire lunch on these $1 lunches that were 4 rolls and 2 milks, and it got me here today, made me who I am. So 4 rolls and 2 milks, that's the secret recipe.
I got to think that students smelling bread baking would only improve educational outcomes.
I know it's not nutritionally correct, but I just wanted to share that.
Director Pinkham, and then Director.
Yeah. I was just kind of caught, I guess, on the motion itself when it said similar price. Well, what's the definition of similar price?
I believe at a roughly $250,000 projected cost, this price was about $4,000 more than the other competitor.
It says, contract it, 1-year contract with annual renewal for option of 2 additional years at a similar price. So, similar price, I guess, is that, within that $250,000 range, is that similar?
That's relatively comparable to what we spent last year. We spent about 231. And this is an estimate. The actual cost will depend on what we order, the mix of bread products versus other carbohydrates that end up in our menu. So but
I don't know
we
that
wouldn't
he's
expect
talking about that as much as he's talking about the looseness of the word
Similar price.
similar price, that it's not tacked down. And that, if I'm reading you correctly, that gives you pause.
Right. It's an option. I don't know, Aaron, if you do want to chime in, if there's an inflator built into the contract that limits, and again, it's an option that we don't necessarily have to take. We can go to other providers. We'd expect it to be, again, in the market and roughly the rate of inflation. But are there any other
So is it coming
escalators
back
you
to
wanna put
us
in?
then for renegotiation in a year?
The option
What does
would,
the RFP say?
the option would come back to you if we expect similar expenses, because it would be over the $250,000 price.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Director Burke, you're good? Director Mack.
I just appreciate all the good work that's going on in nutrition services on all different fronts, including, and thank you for finding out about the nut-free aspect. That's safety of our students in our schools is important, and I know we also talked about the work that's going on to get more clarity around the allergens that are in our school lunches, so that it's easier for folks to figure out whether or not that's going to be a safe meal. Allergies are complicated, and I know that lots of folks out there have to go through the process of doing 504 plans and having all the accommodations. So I just really appreciate your attention to the safety of our students and finding that out.
Roll call, please.
Director Pinkham,
Aye.
Director Burke,
Aye.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Harris.
Aye.
This motion is passed unanimously.
Okay, action item number 4, and after this item, we're going to take a 10-minute break. School name change. Van Asselt at the African American Academy came before OPS August 15th for approval. Motion, please.
I move that the school board authorize the change of Van Asselt at African American Academy to Rising Star at African American Academy. The change would commence in September 2019, but allow 1 full year for changes to be made to district systems. Immediate action is in the best interest of the district.
I second the motion.
Who's presenting this one? You, Chief Podesta?
I think I'll tee up a couple process points and then ask Principal Lamb to join me to talk about the outreach part.
Thank you.
So this, as the bar states, the school started considering this really based on practical issues, that having Van Asselt at African American Academy and having old Van Asselt and original Van Asselt has created myriad logistical problems for the school. But I think once staff and the school community got into it, this became more about building a new identity and about self-determination. So the principal and her team formed a naming committee that did exhaustive input from school stakeholders to think about a process and think about what it would mean to the school community. I also really want to applaud that this isn't a building name change. So the group voluntarily met the spirit of the board procedure about building name changes because it's transparent and calls for a lot of outreach and engagement. But a school name change is different and can be done differently, but I think they've used a very open process, and that's why we're here today. And just want to make sure that the board understands that this is being done in the spirit of a building name change, but the building name will not change. It's just that process is a good vehicle for getting input and getting engagement, and so the team followed it. Is there a question, Director Mack?
Yes, Director Harris. Director Harris. Hello. Director Mack, note to self.
Okay, so just because I'm really looking forward to hearing from the principal and get some history as well, and I think the community is as well. But I really want to get clarification on what we're doing here so the public fully understands. So there are 2 buildings called Van Asselt.
Yes.
Aha. And those buildings,
There's
how many buildings are actually called Van Asselt?
there is original Van Asselt and old Van Asselt. I think the bullet.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's original Van Asselt, old Van Asselt, and Van Asselt.
Van Asselt is not a building name; it's a school name. The building name is
Okay.
African American Academy.
Okay, so we have 2 buildings that are called either original Van Asselt or old Van Asselt, but their name is technically Van Asselt. Okay. And then when the school itself moved to the African American Academy building, the building's name is African American Academy,
And will remain
that
so.
name of the building came with it. But we are not changing the actual building names of the 2 buildings that still exist, called Old Van Asselt and Original Van Asselt. Those are still Van Asselt as building names.
Right.
We are only changing the name of the school community in the African American Academy building.
And that building name will remain.
And the policy is around building names,
It is.
and it's very specifically around the importance of that and the process around that. So we're not doing that. We're not changing a building name.
But it's a significant change to the community. So I think that was why this process was followed, to give the board input and to follow a good process that encourages engagement. So I will turn it over to Principal.
And can our guests as well specifically address former PTSA President Sabrina Burr's comments and concerns?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
My name is Huyen Lam, principal at Van Asselt Elementary School. First, I'm really sorry for the way I dressed. I am dressed for packing and moving with my staff today, and so my mind has not been in looking good at all, and I apologize. I forgot the clothes. I didn't have to borrow her sweatshirt. So I do apologize, first of all. So as a new principal coming into community, I kind of grew up here pretty much, started my career at Van Asselt as an IA. Coming back to it, the first thing I look at the building, because oftentimes to me, being an immigrant, a refugee myself, name is really important. Name and identity is something really you need to have pride, to really know where you're coming from, to really think about the future, right? So I came into this building where you can't even find the identity, like Van Asselt. Like I came even as a leader, I didn't know where to sit because there's old Van Asselt everywhere. So I was standing looking for who I am. And I went to the building. There's this old hanging sign, that's hanging on the window, and you couldn't see Van Asselt. And I looked around the building. I'm like, who are we? Where are we? And so that was something I looked into, and I asked Jen, who's been here and who's been the heart and soul for 7 years at Van Asselt, why is that the case? And nobody wanted, and she shared all the confusions, all the fire department and all our budgets. And I looked at it. We were even like paying for somebody that's at Old Van Asselt when I went to our budget arena. So there's a lot of confusion. And I go, and this is a battle that not everyone wants to take on because it's very political as I went through the process. But I know it needs to be done because it's important to our community and our students that there has to be a name that we can identify, be proud of, and we can then really start rising together and create a new future for our students, right? This aspiration. So Jen worked really hard. So I want her to share kind of the history that we did, because we understand it's important to bring our community in to really acknowledge and honor all the past that has been going on, how we got to this future, because to me that's really important when you really know your name and your identity, right? And so Jen will share and really share what Sabrina was concerned about, and we understand that. And so we were really careful in the way how we include and engage our community members.
Thank you. I'm Jennifer Kovach, the assistant principal. And I love doing research, so that's why I've been more in the role of the historian. But I also need reading glasses, so here we go. So we actually started because we did meet with Sherry Cox and the superintendent, and it was recommended that we do research So with the African American community, African American Academy community, we reached out to many people who were instrumental in the founding of the Academy. So I want to say that going back to the early 1990s, we have connected with Ricky Malone, who was one of the original founders. We also were told that Michael Preston and Tony Orange were involved, but we were not able to contact them. We did work with Dr. Wanda Hackett, who was part of the Links, which supported the Academy, and Gail Johnson, whose mother was quite instrumental here in Seattle in getting many things going. And they have come to some of our meetings. With the Black Child Development Institute, which was also instrumental in supporting the Academy, Kimberly Early came and worked with us. No one from the Tabor 100 company responded, but we reached out to them. Colin Williams' family was contacted and declined to participate, but appreciated being contacted. Mel Streeter, the architect's sons, were contacted, but they did not. They decided not to participate as well. We contacted staff who had taught at the Academy: Bill Butler, Mary Vester, George Freeland, and Dazan Davis. Were aware of the process, came to some of the meetings, Bill Butler especially. Mary Vester came to one of the meetings. George Breland was just communicating with us via email. And then Liz Reynolds Thomas came and participated in many of the meetings, and she was one of the big supporters with the Links as well. And then Valerie Fisher was a community member who came and also gave some input. So these are people who were instrumental back when the Academy was getting founded and was active in the building for the 10 years that it existed approximately in the African American Academy at 8311 Beacon Avenue South. To address Ms. Burr's comments about contemporary engagement with the Black community, which I think she was specifically addressing, although we were told many times that it wasn't just a school for Black students and that many students from many different ethnicities attended the school. We feel our community engagement with the present was very much with our families, and by reaching out to all of the people that I mentioned to you, we know that they were also reaching out to their sort of constituents and so forth. And what we learned from this process, loud and clear, is that African American Academy is a name that we want to carry very proudly as a building name, and that we, through this process, are going to, I think, be able to reaffirm all of the ideals and the work and the love and the care that went into that. So I feel like we are open to continuing to engage and will continue to engage with anyone who cares about African American Academy's history and present and future. To address Mr. Jaskin's comment, okay, sorry. When the Sharpless research was done, Ancestry.com probably did not exist. And so we luckily now have technology which allowed us to create a pretty complete family history tree of the Van Asselt family. And Van Asselt had 4 children, 3 daughters and 1 son. One of the daughters, she married somebody named Benedum. Her name was Harriet Jane, and that family stayed in this area. So the other 3 siblings moved to California and moved to Michigan, and really sort of lost interest in their family. But Harriet Jane, great-granddaughter, who would have been Henry and Catherine Jane Maple, that was Henry Van Asselt's wife, their great-great-great-granddaughter, Marlis, I will not share her last name just for confidentiality, she lives in the area, an island a little ways away from here. And she is a passionate historian of her family. She donated all of the letters to Mohi, and in addition, some furniture is there, which we can go and see, and you can go and see. And she said that she would talk to her brother, Mark. So I also am active with Ancestry. So we communicated first over Ancestry, then we talked over the phone. And there actually are some of their children who are educators right now. One is a speech-language pathologist over in Bellevue, and the other one is teaching again up in the islands. So she reached out to everybody in the family, including her brother Mark, the most closest descendants, and they are very happy to clear up the confusion. She really understood the confusion. She said, as long as there's at least 1 building named Van Asselt, we are happy. Well, there are actually still 4 buildings, at least that bear or 3 buildings that name the Van Asselt. There's the 1909 building, there's the 1950 building, and the 1909 building became a landmark in May, so that will stay that name, I imagine, for quite some time. I've recommended that those two buildings together become the Van Asselt Educational Complex to kind of clear up the confusion about the two buildings piece of it. And then the Van Asselt Community Center is right across the street, also having the name Van Asselt. Van Asselt became the name of an entire neighborhood because Henry Van Asselt had 320 acres, which sort of became a whole neighborhood, and it became annexed to Seattle in 1907. So there's more, like the Van Asselts that sort of spread all over that area.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to twirl it up, but may I just say something here for the record? How cool is it that we have staff that is so passionate and so freaking talented? Thank you so much. Director Mack.
I really appreciate the thoroughness of the research and the reaching out and the so I do have a question though for Mr. Podesta for future bars, because it does sound like the two buildings that are next to each other, but they're basically one school, that maybe that does need a renaming clarification. We are doing the ribbon cutting on Queen Anne, which has two buildings, but it's all Queen Anne. So I'm wondering if we can
And there's a landmark
facilitate getting
component
that
to
cleared.
that as well.
Can you schedule that for an ops meeting, please?
Yes, I just like to put that on the agenda.
For the chair of ops, Mr. Ops.
We'd be happy.
Roll call, please. Up, excuse me, the blind eye. Director Pinkham.
And just reading through this bar and stuff, for me, and I think maybe for some of the public, there's a lot of confusion. It seems like this Van Ness, or again, whatever at African American is referred to as a building. It's referred to as a school. It's referred to as a program. Which one is it? I think we need to make that a little bit clear in this. Is it a school or is it a program? Because
It's a school.
in some of the notes, they talk about, the renaming a program. And then another part of the notes, it talks about renaming the school. So for me, that just confuses a lot of stuff for me, as this what can then future happen. Oh yeah, they renamed a school through this process, and someone else, hey, we can rename a school just through the same process. I hope that this doesn't, make things muddy going down as schools want to change their name or programs change their name. Is this, again, it's a change of a school, if that's what it is, name. I want that to be clarified.
This microphone is hot. I think my understanding seemed to me that the bar was clear. Perhaps some of the background notes use the term program, but just to clarify, this is a school name. And really we have schools and buildings. Building name change is a much bigger deal. It involves OSPI and others. And a program, a school change is clearly what's going on here.
But looking at the notes, seems like they're following the procedure for program name changes, not for school name changes. So that's where the confusion.
The procedure they followed is for building name changes. That's the board procedure, is about building name changes.
In the notes that are included
Right.
with this,
Sure, I
page
understand.
6, it says, Gretchen DeBacher shares how program name changes are proposed.
Right.
Versus, seems like this should have been changing how school name changes should be chose. If that was, again, maybe just a Scribner or something, and still, again, for me, that just needs to be clarified that they followed the school name changer procedure, not the name, program name.
I believe there are only board policies for building name changes. And so, which is the highest bar in terms of visibility and letting the board weigh in. So this team chose to use the highest possible bar. But
Director
what
Burke?
is being changed is a school name.
I want to commend your team on the outreach. I was reading through the level of detail that went into this. We talk about our bar in terms of board action report, but this is a bar that has raised the bar. And I guess I think I can tell from the content, but I'd like it to be part of the record, why this is for intro action.
I meant a lot to the identity of the school and the school community to start school this year with the new name.
Madam Superintendent, please.
Yeah, I just want to commend Principal Lamb and her staff and her team for all the work they did. I mean, from that very first meeting we had around a small table with the input that was given there to what it's grown to become and all the deep engagement that happened and the work that was happening and all of the stakeholders that you had to engage. So I just want to thank you for diving into that, for really bringing people together and to come, you know, it's very significant to actually move from Van Asselt to Rising Star and what that means to your community. And I think it is a change that will help you galvanize your community to really have an identity about who it is you are for your students, right? And what that means to your staff and families. So just thank you, Principal Lamb, for your leadership in that and for the team members that you were able to bring together on that.
Roll call, please.
Director Burke,
Aye. Shine bright.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Pinkham,
Aye.
Director Harris.
Aye.
This motion is passed unanimously.
A 15-minute break, 7:05 back here. Thank you.